Let's review some EKG practice strips. As we go through the strips, we will pause so that way you can pause the video. Work on answering the strip yourself, then come back and press play to review the answers. So let's start with strip number 1. In strip number 1, the atrial rhythm is NA. There are no P waves, so your atrial rhythm is NA, your rate is NA, and your PR interval is NA. Your ventricular rhythm, your QRS complexes march out, so it is regular. To calculate your rate, you'll use the 1500 rule. So count the number of small boxes from one R to the next and divide by 1500. So you get a rate of 45 to 48. Measure your QRS. You can see those purple marks there. That's where you should be measuring. And you'll get a range of 0.08 to 0.10. So this rhythm is junctional rhythm. Strip number 2. For strip number 2, the atrial rhythm is irregular. Therefore, to calculate a rate, find your 6 seconds. 30 big boxes make up 6 seconds. Count the number of complexes in those 6 seconds and multiply by 10. So here you should get a rate between 60 and 70. Your PR interval is measuring 0.12 to 0.16. Your ventricular rhythm is also irregular, so you'll calculate your rate with the same method and get the same answer as your atrial rate. Your QRS measures 0.8 to 0.10. So here we have sinus arrhythmia.
Strip number 3. Do you see any discernible P waves? So you're not able to get an atrial rate, and your atrial rhythm will be NA as well. Your PRI is also NA. Let's look at ventricular rhythm. Your QRSs, they do not march out, making them irregular. So you're going to use your 6-second strip, multiply by 10 with the number of QRS complexes to get a rate of 130. Your QRS measures 0.08 to 0.10. In interpretation, this would be considered uncontrolled AFib. So remember, with AFib and A-flutter, if they have a rate greater than 100, it is considered uncontrolled. Strip number 4. With your atrial rhythm, do they march out? Yes, making it regular. Your atrial rate, you'll use your count out 20 small boxes with your 1500 rule, giving you a rate of anywhere between 71 to 75. Your PRI, as seen with the purple, will measure 0.16. Ventricular rhythm, your QRSs do march out, making it regular. So you might have seen 2 abnormally shaped QRS complexes. That is okay. Just circle them. We will address them with our interpretation. They do not count towards the rate or the rhythm. Your rate, yet again, smaller boxes. With the rule of 1500, you will get a rate of 71 to 75. QRS complex will measure 0.08 to 0.10. Yet again, measure the QR complexes of the regular QR complexes that you see. Do not measure the abnormal ones. Your interpretation, yet again, we have to be mindful of those 2 abnormalities. So it will be normal sinus rhythm with multifocal PVC. So remember, multifocal means different direction.
Strip number 5. All right, our atrial rhythm is regular. To calculate our rate, we're getting 26 small boxes from P wave to P wave. So we have a rate between 56 and 60. PR interval is measuring 0.22 to 0.24. Our ventricular rhythm is also regular. Our rate, again, between 56 and 60. Our QRS complex is measuring 0.08 to 0.10. And so our interpretation here is sinus Brady with a first-degree heart block. If you got a rate of 60 and you answered sinus rhythm with first-degree heart block, that will also be correct. When testing, you will not have a rate that is right on the border between sinus Brady and sinus rhythm. Strip number 6. Our atrial rhythm is regular. Our rate, we get between 78 and 83. Our PR interval is measuring 0.20. Ventricular rhythm is also regular. Our rate is between 38 and 40. Our QRS complex is measuring 0.08 to 0.10. And so here we have second-degree heart block type 2. In second-degree heart block type 2, not every P wave is followed by a QRS. So you see you have some P waves with no QRS behind it. But when you do have the full cardiac cycle, when you can measure your PR interval, the intervals measure the same.
Strip 7. Let's look for your atrial rhythm. It is regular. Atrial rate, you're able to count your small boxes and we count 21, making the rate anywhere between 71 to 75. Your PRI will be 0.12 to 0.16. Let's look at your ventricular rhythm. Yes, they do march out, making it regular. With your rate of 71 to 75, QRS will be 0.08, and the interpretation with this will be a sinus rhythm with a pause. So always be conscientious with pauses. Does everything else march out? If you see something abnormal with it, address it, and then follow the rules to identify, is it sinus rhythm, is there a pause, and go from there. Strip number 8. This may have been a little bit of a tricky one, but let's break it down. Atrial rhythm. Mark where you would see P waves or anticipate P waves. It might be in the most obvious places or not obvious places. So just be intentional, mark those P waves, places where you would anticipate the P wave to be. So as you can see, they do march out, so making it regular. Your atrial rate, since it's regular, I'm able to measure 20 smaller boxes, giving me a rate of 71 to 75. PRI, it's not applicable because I don't have a true PR interval. Ventricular rhythm, I'm seeing if they're able to march out, which they do, making it regular. Ventricular rate will be 32 to 34. QRS will be 0.14 to 0.16. Our interpretation is third-degree heart block at the bundle branch level. So be intentional with anytime that you do have a third degree, you have to differentiate whether it's at the AV or bundle branch level. AV level is going to be a normal QRS, while your bundle branch will be a wide QRS.
Strip number 9. Our atrial rhythm here is regular. For our rate, we're going to count the number of small boxes from one flutter wave to the next, and you'll get 5. So you're getting a rate between 250 and 300. Your PR interval is NA. These are flutter waves, not P waves, so you cannot measure a PR interval. Ventricular rhythm is regular. The rate is 71 to 75. My QRS is measuring between 0.04 and 0.08. And so the interpretation here is controlled A flutter. Again, it's controlled because the ventricular rate is less than 100. Strip number 10. Here, of course, everything is NA because we have asystole.
Strip 11. So our atrial rhythm, we will go from pacer spike to pacer spike, making it regular. Our atrial rate, we count 20 small boxes between the pacer spike in front of the first P wave to the next P wave of the complex, 72 to 75. PRI, we're able to measure 0.16 to 0.20. Ventricular rhythm, they do march out, making them regular. Ventricular rate 72 to 75. QRS is 0.16, and this would be considered 100% AV pace. AV meaning that we're getting 2 pacer spikes to show the contraction in the pacer, pacing both the atrium and the ventricles. Strip number 12. So with this one, we don't see any really discernible activity, so we're going to put NA for all of these, including the ventricular. And this will be considered B-fib. So remember, similar to the asystole, this is a lethal rhythm, so do not miss this for the exam.
Strip number 13. In strip number 13, there are no P waves, so your atrial rhythm will be NA, your rate is NA, and your PR interval is also NA. Ventricular rhythm, it is regular. The rate, 49 small boxes from R to R, so you should get a rate between 28 and 31. QRS, note the purple marks where you should be measuring your QRS. And it's wide, 0.24 to 0.28. The interpretation here is IVR, idioventricular rhythm. Strip number 14. Strip number 14, your atrial rhythm is regular. Your P waves do march out. Your rate is between 65 and 68. Your PR interval here varies. Ventricular rhythm is irregular. So our rate is between 60 and 65. QRS is measuring right around 0.08. And so our interpretation here is second degree heart block type 1. And second degree heart block type 1, remember your PR interval gets longer, longer, longer before it drops, meaning I have a P wave with no QRS complex behind it, and then the cycle starts right back over.
Strip 15. So with strip 15, Our atrial rhythm will be NA. Do you see any P waves? Remember, with the P waves, they have to be clearly visible. We can't assume that, ooh, I see a bump that's going to be a P wave, making our atrial rate NA as well as PRI. Ventricular rhythm, we see if they march out, in which they do, so it's regular. Ventricular rate, we're able then to count the small boxes. We get 9, giving us a rate of 166 to 187. QRS is going to be marked by the purple, 0.04 to 0.08, and the interpretation is narrow complex supraventricular tachycardia, or for testing purposes, SVT. Strip 16. Alrighty, so let's take a look at this for strip 16. Atrial rhythm, we see no viable activity. PRI, no activity. But ventricular rhythm, we do see a wide QRS. They do march out, giving it regular. Your rate, you're going to count 8 small boxes, giving us a rate of 167 to 187. QRSs, we're going to measure it from here to here, 0.16 to 0.20. This is going to be interpreted as VTAC. So remember, for testing purposes with VTAC, your measurements could be incorrect, but the identification, interpretation must be correct because this is a lethal rhythm.
Strip 17. For strip 17, there are no P waves, so your atrial rhythm, rate, and PR interval are all in A. Your ventricular rhythm is regular. Your QRS complexes march out. So we get 19 small boxes from R to R, which gives us a rate between 79 and 83. QRS is measuring between 0.08 and 0.10. So the interpretation is accelerated junctional. Junctional has an intrinsic rate of 40 to 60. So from 60 to 100, we use the term accelerated. Strip number 18. Again, no P waves. So my atrial rhythm, rate, and PR interval are all in A. My ventricular rhythm is regular. I'm getting a rate between 52 and 54. QRS here, note those purple marks where you're measuring, it's wide. So I have a QRS between 0.16 and 0.20. So the interpretation here is accelerated IVR. Remember, IVR has an intrinsic rate of 20 to 40. So from 40 to 100, we use the term accelerated.
Strip 19. Your atrial rhythm would be NA. Do you see any P waves? So the same would apply for your atrial rate and your PRI. Ventricular rhythm, do they march out? Yes, they do, making it regular. Your ventricular rate, since it's regular, we're able to count the small boxes. We get around 12, giving us a rate of 125 to 130. Our QRSs, as indicated by the purple, will be 0.04 to 0.08, and our interpretation is junctional tachycardia. So like Laura has said before, think of the intrinsic rate 40 to 60. 60 to 99 is accelerated junctional, and any 100 and greater will be considered junctional tachycardia. And finally, strip 20. Alrighty, with strip 20, your atrial rhythm, do they march out? Yes, they do, making it regular. Your atrial rate, we're counting 18 smaller boxes, giving us a rate of 79 to 83. Your PRI, as indicated by the purple, we measure 0.16. Let's look at the ventricular rhythm. Do they march out? Yes, making it regular. Your ventricular rate, 79 to 83. Your QRS is 0.08 to 0.10. And your interpretation will be sinus rhythm with a PAC. So similar to the PVCs earlier, if you see something that is abnormal, circle it, make note of it. But once you're, don't let it influence when you're identifying rate and rhythm unless everything is irregular.
So here are some websites you can go to for additional practice, with the top two being our favorites that we prefer. I was thinking about testing